It's basically trying to buy votes. $10,000 is a nice incentive. But, I think that even the people that are maybe getting this, forgiveness, this $10,000 loan forgiveness, I think they're smart enough to know that it's really not the right thing to do.
Yep, pretty much.
Marsh, you laughing? Because that's exactly producer Hannah's take. And guess who's I know. And guess who's benefiting?
Me.
Producer Hannah. Guess who hates the idea of this?
Me. Stephanie Bell.
I don't know if I hate it.
I hate it.
I recognize why others might hate it.
But intellectually, you're in disagreement over it on political concepts and just what's right. You're against. And don't let me put words in your mouth.
Yeah, I mean, if I was not going to directly benefit from it, I would feel very differently about it. I would be very upset if I was having to pay someone else's student loans.
But here's the good news.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Can we just give you money out of our purses and wallets now, John?
Yeah.
You got $10 we can just give to Hannah here and directly. Yeah.
You guys are so nice.
We're not faulting you. But the good news is, apparently one of the parts of this plan is that if you have paid back student loan debt in the past 20 years, they're going to give you. They're not doing that?
Come on, Brandon.
Man.
Don't get my hopes up.
Salt in the wound.
I graduated. I had $85,000 in loans.
Wow.
Yeah. And there were days where months where I paid more on my student loans than I paid on my mortgage, more that I paid monthly on my student loans than my daycare bill. Yeah. And
So if you're doing your list, you're doing your budget. We all know we sit and we do our budget, especially now since the tragic events of January the 20th of 2021. Usually it's like mortgage payment, daycare, but any more daycare, my goodness. Yeah. Student loan. Joe Biden set to announce today student loan forgiveness. And I got it wrong. I got to do a fact check real quick. I said that, and if you've paid back student loan debt, in the past 20 years or so, they're going to give you some cash. I want to do a fact check on that. Yeah, that's not happening. We've run it through our Ministry of Truth.
Well, and I see, I have friends who went to law school who are in their 40s, right? And they've got student loans from years ago, and they're driving like a Beamer, right? And I got both my cars are over 100,000 miles. Jeez. I got my Chevy, or whatever. And I paid that back because I wanted the freedom to be able to do, what I didn't feel right, having all of that debt when I knew I could pay it back. So, but there are folks out there who have not been paying it back, who are living a very nice lifestyle with that student loans. Are they going to get the forgiveness like that? That just feels so unfair. I feel so
and I think
unfair and sad.
Sorry,
you need to wake up, Brandon.
Sorry.
That was your alarm.
Oh, that's my alarm. It's
okay.
Time to get going. Sorry, Governor Parson texted me. He wants to play golf today. I'm not available. John,
was that a humble brag?
John, how's your golf game today? Yeah. Last game of golf I did. I almost nailed it. It was at the Midway Miniature Golf Course, but I nailed it. Yeah. Right in through the windmill. Welcome to the show. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. To my left is Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Powerful attorney, Ellinger & Associates, Jeff City. Producer Hannah, who's going to be, in effect, it's like CNN saying, hey, gas prices have gone down. They're still way higher than they were January 20th of 2021. But since you're saving a little bit on gas compared to where we do, consider this $100 a month raise. CNN really said that.
I saw that headline. That's insane.
So Hannah, producer Hannah, who's about to be $10,000 richer.
Good morning.
Good morning. Mr. Marsh is here. My name is Branden Rathert. Our phone number, 573-874-9390. Darren already reacting. It is wrong. It is wrong. It is wrong. Whether you benefit or not, we're with you. But even Hannah, producer Hannah is with you. We were talking, what was it, 2009? Biden, he basically bailed out General Motors. and they had some kind of, I don't know what they called it back then. Stimulus. Let's take taxpayer money that we've collected from people like Stephanie, who back in 2009, were you out of school by then?
Yeah, I was. And I got the Obama money.
So did I. And as a matter of fact, it was incredibly helpful. I left my job in Boise, Idaho, and took a job in Pensacola, Florida. I shouldn't say Obama, but you and John, you helped pay for my move there. And Stephanie, thank you, bud. Stephanie,
I got that like first time home buyers credit. You know, they were giving like straight up cash for just like buying a house. And that was right when I'd graduated. And I think I bought like a water softener with it, actually. And a big screen TV back when they were like really expensive. So,
but I'm trying to, and I remember at the time, and I took the money, man. They paid for all of my expenses. It was like a 4-day driving trip. They paid for my gas money, paid for hotels, paid for my food, my dinners. And it was interesting because everywhere I went, I had to get every restaurant I ate along the way in that 4-day drive from Boise, Idaho to Pensacola, Florida. I'd say one receipt was the food because Obama was going to pay for it, and Stephanie and John, and then I had to get a separate receipt for the beers because Obama wasn't going to pay for my beers, so I had to get a separate receipt for this stuff. But I remember, and I'm serious here. It's kind of like the ARPA money over the past couple of years. Like, man, I really do. And I'm not exaggerating. It's not like I'm trying to prove. It was like in your heart, like, this is distasteful.
It's so much money, the city governments don't even know what to do with it, and neither does the state. They're like, oh, I guess we'll give some of this back to the people because, like, we don't need it. I mean, that is how bad it is. And the point is, the federal government never should have doled that out in the first place.
Missouri specifically right now, they're talking about tax cuts, which is great, but we have so much money. They're like, let's go to Passion's nightclub and make it rain up in here. That's how much ARPA money. Boom! Make it rain.
Wait. Why do you have so many ones in your wallet?
Ooh, awkward.
Oh, wow.
Awkward.
Why?
I'm trying. And how do you know that? I'm trying to think roughly how many college students right here in mid-Missouri. Obviously, Mizzou, I think roughly 30 to 35,000, and Columbia College and William and Mary. What do you say roughly at LU, John? 2,000. Central Missouri, I think like 10,000 students maybe. And that's so I bet there's at least 75,000 students this morning on August the 24th at 6:15 in the morning that they're going to benefit. And I can't think of how many thousands of people that maybe, came here to we have numerous fine institutions that came here, student debt. And they are going to be affected. I bet at least 75,000 people. Between Mizzou, you're talking 35,000, Central Missouri, 10,000, Lincoln, almost 2,000, plus all the other colleges. Yeah. By the way, they do incredible work. They really do. I hear more and more people talk about state tech. And I'm excited. As a matter of fact, going through Ashland yesterday to the new Lakeside by Ashland thing, which is going to be remarkable. That Rankin Tech is set up right behind Salter Lawn Service. And I was hanging out with Stacy and Chase and some of the guys there at Salter. And that Rankin Tech is starting to come together. They got the pad. They've got parking. So exciting stuff. But it's pretty impactful. And I think we are all in agreement what complete and utter BS this is. Isn't this this is retroactive socialism in effect? Hey, you borrowed money. You signed your name on a piece of paper and said, hey, you pay me for this stuff now, and then I'm going to pay it back. It's retroactive social. No, we're going to take other people's money and, in effect, just give it to you. That's socialism as I understand it. I mean, it's very simplistic, but it's socialism.
Well, and I do want to be clear, even though I am benefiting from this, like if I was, removed from it in that way, I would be just as upset about it. I would challenge anybody to think about someone in my position, though, and it's hard not to be at least a little bit excited. You know what I mean? Like
being honest, yeah.
Yeah, to be honest, it's a huge burden that's going to be kind of taken off of my plate.
I'd be excited by a $10,000 raise.
For sure. Well, and you heard yesterday some of the Democrat reactions to the governor's announcement about special session, and they're like, "Oh, it's not going to benefit, or it's only going to benefit the middle class. It's not going to benefit the lower income folks because they don't pay taxes, so they won't get this tax cut." But here, in the same way, you think about who has student loans, who went to college. So a lot of these folks have a 4-year degree. They're upper to middle income people. And so these are people certainly there are people who, went to college, took out a loan and didn't graduate and are still struggling. I get that. But if you look at who's going to benefit from a student loan, forgiveness, why are Democrats supporting this? If they are out there saying, well, Mike Parsons' thing is only going to benefit the middle class, this is going to benefit the middle and the upper class because you're benefiting people who have degrees who are already probably in jobs, who are higher wage earners. And so, it's talking out of two sides of your mouth here.
Well, and I think the income cap for it's like what, $125,000. That's a pretty decent annual salary.
So, in other words, you don't qualify.
I definitely fall within the umbrella, yes.
I love this. Charles, question for Stephanie. Since Stephanie's an attorney, can we do a class action lawsuit against the federal government?
Right? Right. Let's go, Charles.
Hey, any press is good press for Wake Up Mid-Missouri member and partner with Ellinger Associates suing the federal government over student loan forgiveness. Now, because we got to move forward. There are a lot of things happening this morning. We're getting ready for the morning bell. Big, I think, in effect, even though we're here in mid-Missouri, I think some consequential primaries in a couple of states yesterday that's got national implications, in my opinion. Stephanie's going to dish on that here in a few minutes. There is an economist. His name is Mark Goldwine. He is with Johns Hopkins University. And again, I think right now, context is important. On CNN, the Clinton News Network, talking about student debt forgiveness as it relates to the Inflation Reduction Act. You know what the Inflation Reduction Act doesn't do?
It doesn't reduce inflation.
And Mr. Mark Goldwine agrees with Stephanie Bell.
If we do cancel $10,000 of debt and just extend the pause a few months, we're going to be at about that much in terms of new costs. So all the deficit reduction is going to be wiped out. At the same time, we're probably going to do more to increase inflation from debt cancellation than any inflation reduction from the Inflation Reduction Act.
And as much as we would like to call these, they're dogs chasing their tails. Let's do the Inflation Reduction Act, and it'll reduce inflation, which it won't. And then let's forgive student loan stuff, and that's actually probably going to add to it. My gosh. Coming up, daily DC rundown. Some big primaries yesterday. What do you got for us, Steph?
Well, not only are we doling out free money for student loans, but we're doling out apparently free money for EVs, electric vehicles.
This guy wants to be president of the United States of America, and everybody knows it. However, when we defeat him on November 8th, that show is over.
Charlie Crist, Florida, wins the Democratic nomination to try to become governor, which is a job he once held. He wants it again. Former Republican, former independent, now Democrat. He hasn't changed his political affiliation over the years.
He's reimagined.
Reimagined. He's evolved. So he is the front runner. Actually, he wins yesterday's primary, and that leads us into today's Daily DC Rundown with Stephanie Bell.
So the Democrats in Florida are really interested in trying to blunt DeSantis's momentum. You know, DeSantis is kind of like a front runner for 2024, and they're thinking, hey, if we can knock him off here, you know, it would be a huge blow to Republicans and to DeSantis's chances. So yes, Charlie Crist won the Florida primary. And will be facing DeSantis in the general. I don't think the guy stands a chance. Do you?
He's got an interesting history in Florida. He enjoyed a lot of popularity as governor for 4 years, then decided to run for Senate, got his rear end kicked by Rubio, and that's when he started, even before he lost that Senate race, and all kinds of rumors out there about him, and just eventually it came across as smug, and he's lost 2 races, I think, since he was so I don't know, but the thing and we might get more into this, are we really going to get this big red wave that we've been thinking in November? I think so, but could Charlie Crist benefit from perhaps these evolving attitudes on whether or not we're going to have a big red wave?
I think so, too. And, you know, I was down there at CPAC in Orlando with a lot of Floridians, and they're overwhelming. When I said, oh, you know, DeSantis in 2024, they said, you can't have him. We want to keep him as our governor. Like, we're not giving him to you for president. Like, we want him to stay in our state. And so there was so much support. And obviously, you know, it was a big Republican event, but they were that adamant that, you know, and so most people for their state, they're like, yeah, it'd be great if our governor was the president. And they were like, no, ma'am, we want him to stay as our governor because he's done such a good job.
And he might have to get through Josh Hawley first.
Well, there's a lot of folks. I think Mike Pence, there are other folks who are interested. So New York also had a primary yesterday. They drew together 2 previous districts the court did in redistricting, Jerry Nadler and I think it was Carolyn. No, that's the wrong name. Yeah, Carolyn Maloney. And Nadler pulled it out. So Carolyn Maloney served as for 30 years in Congress and was defeated by Nadler. He, of course, led some of the fights to impeach Trump, but he was reelected yesterday in New York.
And she kind of became a train wreck there at the end. Just crazy debates, and then was doing an interview with the New York Times, and they asked her, hey, do you think Biden's going to run for re-election in 2024? And she says, well, off the record, no. And they're, hold up, that's not how off the record works. You would think if you're in the public spotlight for 30 years like this woman was, you would think you would know you don't ever say off the record in the middle of an interview.
Well, and you know, recently Biden pissed off France. I forget about what exactly, but you know, if you make France mad, you've done something wrong. But he's also pissing off other people around the world, which is not surprising. But so there's a new tax credit about EVs, and manufacturers with the World Trade Organization are now angered about all the money that's to support U.S. EV manufacturing. And so we'll see what happens.
That's an accomplishment. You made France mad. I love it. That's your Daily DC Rundown with Stephanie Bell. John F. Wood dropping out of Missouri Senate race. Who is he going to endorse? Is he going to endorse Schmitt, Trudy Bush, Valentine? Let's see if we can get some answers. We're going to do that for you 5 minutes from now.
But the fact that Eric Greitens has been leading in all the polls that I've seen recently, including polls that came out after the domestic abuse allegations by his ex-wife, is part of my decision-making process and why I thought it was important for there to be an alternative.
That guy was formerly a member of the J6 committee, formerly a guest of Wake Up Mid-Missouri, and formerly a U.S. Senate candidate. John F. Wood dropping out of the race.
I like it.
Well, and he said, so he's dropped out of the race. Remember, he's the guy, he joined the race for Senate, got the signatures fairly quickly to at least get him on the ballot as an independent for the November election, but he has dropped out. And he is saying what I think we've been saying, us smart people have been saying all along, because there was no path forward for victory. Didn't we say that when there was talk, when Danforth was talking about putting this guy forward? Weren't we saying that?
He came on Wake Up Mid-Missouri and said he was waiting with bated breath to watch the J6 hearings. And I was like, did you do your research? Have you listened to the show? Because, that's probably not a selling point for most people.
Let me tell you something. He was on the show, and John is asking him a question. I remember this vividly, John. John's asking him a question, and John Marsh is asking John Wood a question, and I swear to God, you could hear in the background, John Wood, as he's answering the question, in the background you could hear his TV was on, and he was watching the J6 hearings.
It was bad.
I don't know how accurate that is, Marsh, but that's the best of my recollection. Yeah.
But if we're going to name a winner of the week, I mean, that's huge for Schmitt, right? Because he was put in kind of as a spoiler, I think, to peel off votes from the Republican side. He came on our show. He said, I'm really a Republican, but I'm running as an independent. And so, I still, even with him in the race, I think Schmitt would have run away with the thing. But now a bad day for Trudy Bush Valentine for sure.
Do you agree with that, Marsh? Is that does it give one candidate, whether it's the Republican and our current Attorney General Schmitt, does it benefit him? Does it benefit Trudy? Because that's the thing, the knock on this guy. Listen, man, you're going to siphon votes. And Danforth, who formerly enjoyed legendary name recognition when it comes to Missouri politics, Jack, why are you doing this, man? Do you think it benefits one or the other? Does it make any difference? Let's hope.
And I think the Heartlander pointed out, I don't think that dude sold his house in D.C. He never really lived here anyway. So hopefully he had a month-to-month lease and he can just go back where he came from.
I was in.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was pretty big in legal circles. I was in Kansas City last night. I already had a for sale sign up at his place. That's not true. HeartlanderNews.com did a really nice piece. They were here last week. Mm-hmm. Did a really nice piece hey, so he moved to Missouri on the 3rd of the month, registered to vote the next day, and then the day after that filed the run for says it was pretty dicey. And listen, to an extent, that's part of the ball game. That's how it's played. That's what you do. But I kind of feel bad for Danforth.
You do?
Yeah. Mm. Well, no, I feel bad for, I guess, his name. I feel bad for the Cheney name. Cheney in Washington, D.C., I think really formally an incredible reputation in national politics. Not anymore. Even her dad, even Liz Cheney's dad, Dick, didn't help this woman. And now we've got Danforth, I think, and if it's too lofty of a phrase to say legendary name recognition in political circles in Missouri, well, at least for our generation, Marsh, for us old guys.
Here we go again.
Almost 20,000 students in Columbia Public Schools. Thousands of students in Jefferson City schools already back at school. Almost 20,000 Columbia Public students going back to school yesterday. I hope none of them are up yet listening to Wake Up Mid-Missouri or watching on our YouTube channel. What's the YouTube channel?
It's Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
So you go to Wake Up Mid-Missouri, put up on your smart TV in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
That way you can watch some behind-the-scenes stuff with what's going on, and then your kids can get the latest in local news, and hopefully none of them will go, Mom, what's BDE? Which, by the way, is a 51-year-old dude. Comes to find out, BDE, it's something Carrie Lake, who's running for governor in Arizona.
Correct.
She used its big DeSantis energy. So welcome to the show. Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Stephanie Bell's here.
Good morning.
Producer Hannah.
What up?
My name is Branden Rathert, Mr. Marsh. is here too. So who is John Wood going to endorse in this race, in the Senate race?
He's going to go to sleep. He's not going to endorse anybody.
He's not endorsing anybody.
Do you think he will endorse somebody? I mean, and if he does, I think he'd endorse Trudy Bush Valentine.
You think?
Just to be a jerk.
Yep. The idea of what you did anyway to get, if you say that you're a Republican, yet you're on the J6 committee, and then you're getting into this race, which really has the potential to throw a wrench into things. Yeah, you could be just a BD. I made
Okay.
Orrin also ran. I wouldn't think so. And he said, John F. Wood, I made the decision to run for the U.S. Senate when Eric Greitens was the favorite for the Republican nomination, and polling, for what it was worth, man, getting towards the end it was consistent polling. It wasn't just kind of an outlier poll. It was consistent polling that showed Greitens was in the lead, and I think that's important because if we look at polling right now, and I'm telling you, you look at the following the Dobbs decision.
The Dobbs decision.
Dobbs decision. How many times have I made that mistake?
I don't know.
I'm consistent. The Dobbs decision, which had to do with abortion, did not outlaw abortion. And there's so many people that still really think that. And again, we talk about those people that don't pay attention to the news. And I think that's why we have an influx of new listeners here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. We have younger people that are listening. The ruling did not outlaw abortion.
No, it kicked the decision back to the states and said, hey, really, your state legislators, the people who you elect, should decide your policies, not the courts. And good on them for that.
And if polling, again, for what it's worth, and we relate that to Eric Greitens, a lot of polls up to the race, consistent polling showed that he was going to win. Didn't happen. And I would say, like, the week before the election, we really did see big numbers for Schmitt, and it was a stark change. And it turned out, and I was questioning. I thought, really, like that big of a swing? But it really did. I mean, those polls, Trafalgar was way up. I think plus 13 for Schmitt, and Schmitt ended up running away with it. So it was really close. We saw BSE, Big Schmitt energy.
Be careful.
I know. Let me move forward and chat with Gary real quick. By the way, our phone number, I don't know if you have the phone number yet, but we're in the 573 area code. It's 874-9390, 874-9390. You can text at that number. And we need to get back to student loan forgiveness maybe at 710 because our text is, how do you kids say nowadays? It's blowing up. Text is blowing up.
It's on fire.
It's on
fire emoji.
Gary, welcome into Wake Up Mid-Missouri. What's on your mind today?
Hey, on the voting laws, this guy that he kind of dropped everything in D.C. and then he came and registered to vote in Missouri or wherever. I wonder if he deregistered where he was at, because I have firsthand knowledge of an incident with my brother who has lived in 3 different places in the past 5 years. And then he registered in all of those places, but also he registered with my mother. He's almost 60 years old, but he's still registered at my mother's address. And he brags about voting in all these places absentee. And apparently there is no law that you have to deregister once you re-register in some place. And I think that's a huge problem. And he does it in other states like California and Washington State and Missouri and stuff like that. So I don't know how to keep track of that kind of stuff, but there should be some sort of rule telling people that they have to deregister when they register in a certain state or, the state that they're going to live in.
Gary, you are not wrong, and I thank you for being a part of Wake Up Mid-Missouri this morning, 874-9390. I've shared on more than one occasion. I don't know where I am now, but I don't know, like 7 years ago, I registered here, was still on it. So I went to the Escambia County Clerk's Office in Pensacola, Florida, where I lived for almost 10 years. I was still registered to vote there, and then went to Ada County's Clerk's Office, Ada County. It's where Boise, Idaho is. I was still registered to vote there.
Yeah, he's right. There's no provision that requires you to deregister, and it's particularly a problem in states where they mail out the ballots. And so we saw, especially during COVID and in some other states, they mail you your ballot. And so if you're not deregistered, right, if you happen to not unregister, which no one would do that, right? Like you just, when you move, you sign up for like your new utility. You don't like, anyway. So unless it's costing you money and you're like, yeah, I don't want to pay electricity at my old house, but that's not the, that's not the case with election laws. And so then they just, so now you're the new resident and you get a ballot in your mailbox for the old guy. I mean, what's preventing you from opening that up and being like, you know what, I want to fill this out? I mean, that's where it really gets scary. Now, I will say I saw a tweet from the secretary yesterday, and the Heritage Foundation named Missouri the 4th best state regarding election integrity. And we know we've got some real bulldogs here in Mid-Mo. Cherie Reich is big on cleaning up the voter rolls. And, that's what we need. We need local folks who are reviewing those voter rolls, who are taking people off who are dead, who are taking off the dogs, whoever else, no, there are no dogs, but who were reviewing those. And she knew people, right? Like, I mean, she's a local, she knows people. So she was going through and saying, okay, this person I know moved, this person I know died. And we need folks reviewing those rolls and cleaning them up.
Local state rep Cherie Tolson Reich reps basically Northeast Boone County. She's always been great on that. And I will say this, whenever Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft is on the show, he makes a point to compliment the work of the Boone County clerk, Brianna Lennon. I know Steve Korsmeyer in Cole County. I know he's always done, and he's a neat guy anyway.
Yeah, Steve Korsmeyer. Yeah, he's great. So I still call him a lot. So for years and years, and my friends in Jeff, he owned Blackwell's Garage right there in downtown Jeff City. So I've known him. He was always my mechanic, and he probably hates that I have his phone number, because to this day when I have a car, I just bought those trolleys, and I was like, I don't know what to do about this. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to call Steve. And I'm like, I know this isn't your job anymore, but you're like my lifetime mechanic. And I know you have more important jobs now, but John knows him, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will say I saw yesterday for my folks in the Columbia Chamber, I guess Brianna Lennon's going to be like the monthly chamber speaker coming up and do like for the Columbia Chamber. And so, if you want to hear about the latest election laws or see her speak, she's got an event coming up where she's going to be the speaker, which will be great.
Jefferson City Councilman Scott Spencer spent a lot of years as a firefighter. As a matter of fact, I think he's joining us
I think what we should be prepared for is a level of destruction coming from a Republican Congress, unlike anything we've seen before. I don't want to hear that this is some sort of one-sided Department of Justice or FBI who only investigates Republicans. That's nonsense.
Okay. Context. That's CNN, MSNBC. Peter Strzok, remember him? Former FBI agent who was ousted because during the January 6th I think it was whatever investigation they were trying to get, whatever the soup of the day was for let's get Trump, whatever it was, he was caught sending anti-Trump text messages while he was supposed to be doing a fair and balanced investigation. He's now CNN. I don't know who's worse, him for going out and saying this stuff after you got busted, showing favoritism, showing your distaste for a guy that you were investigating. I don't know if that's worse or the fact that then MSNBC and CNN says, hey, let's bring in this guy to try to tell people, listen, this thing against Trump, there's nothing. That's like Trudy Bush Valentine advertising Miller Lite beer, right? It would be like Trudy Bush Valentine go in hawking another beer. That's how incredibly obnoxious and moronic that is. Man, welcome into the show. Coming up. 7:35. I heard this for the first. I think it was on the Randy Tobler show. He's here weekdays 4 to 6. Maybe it was Gary Nolan's show. He's here now. I can't remember which one it was, but they're saying Minneapolis Teachers Union. They are, if they have to do layoffs, they're going to do layoffs based on the color of your skin. You go first. I'm like, oh, that's horrible. That's racist. The way I understand racism. And I thought, oh, they found that on some real obscure right-wing website. It's a true story.
It's a true story, and our friends are, getting involved.
Judicial Watch. Matter of fact, they've filed. I don't know the fancy lawyer speak for that, but they're perking the head up, saying, well, this is BS. I don't think they put that in the court filing. But the folks involved, Judicial Watch, they are here 7:35 this morning. So the Minneapolis School District, based on the color of your skin, if you're a teacher, you will be laid off first if they have layoffs.
And they've gotten involved before and gotten people to back down. I mean, remember when it was the mayor of Chicago who said she was only going to talk to
white journalists?
Yeah. No, she was not going to talk to white journalists. She was only going to talk to POC journalists.
That's how wigged out I am by this whole racism.
And Judicial Watch was the first one on the scene and said, I don't think that's exactly right. I think that's a bad policy. And, they did, I think, file a lawsuit. And actually, they ended up dismissing the lawsuit because just the pressure of the lawsuit, she reimagined her position on whether or not she would talk to journalists of all colors.
She evolved.
Yeah, so I mean, sometimes just the filing of the lawsuit convinces people maybe that was a bad idea. So anyway, they filed suit yesterday or Monday, like just this week on this policy, and I think good on them. But I'm interested to hear the update and where this thing's headed.
If I were an attorney, and I'm not, if I were handling that case, I'd walk up to the judge and I'd have a dictionary, not a dictionary on my phone, not dictionary.com app, but I'd walk in with Merriam-Webster's dictionary, turn it to page 892, the one that has the definition of racism on it. I would drop it on the judge's bench, say, dismiss this suit because that is racism.
I wish I had. So I had my lawyer dictionary in my car yesterday, and it literally is. It's like probably 8 inches. I mean, it's the big dictionary.
By the way, you're exaggerating. That's not 8 inches.
No, it literally is like it's this. It is
big dictionary energy.
So the Missouri Supreme Court traditionally cites this same dictionary.
Hold up, I'm writing down, Hannah, for winners of the week.
There you go.
Good Friday at 8:35.
And so when you're interpreting statutes, a lot of times you turn to the dictionary, and you want to turn to the same dictionary that the Supreme Court's using. So
8 inches, that's a big dictionary. I'm sorry, you were saying? Well, let's move.
I'm going to have to bring the dictionary in on Friday and show it to you.
All right. Do you see the size of Stephanie's dictionary? It's like 8 inches, man.
Oh, man.
It's this big. I was fish. All right. Let's see. Blank and a beer can. We're going to have to get to that probably 7:10. And transportation.
it's basically trying to buy votes. $10,000 is a nice incentive. But, I think that even the people that are maybe getting this, forgiveness, this $10,000 loan forgiveness, I think they're smart enough to know that it's really not the right thing to do. It was their own choice. They decided to go to college and put this debt on themselves. And now, everyday hardworking Americans are going to have to pay them, basically bail them out.
How does it make you feel, producer Hannah?
Can I just start this by saying I agree? I'm taking some flack on the text this morning for basically saying that, I do benefit from this.
Yeah.
And, I'm going to take the money.
It's distasteful.
What, that I'm going to take $10,000?
No, not you. It's just, I think for all of us, and I don't mean to speak for everybody else, but ARPA money, last time we got a huge bailout, Obama, the stimulus stuff. Just here's some money because
you say distasteful and I say BS. Like, I paid my student loans back, so that is a nice way of saying what I feel about this because I've already paid. So is the government going to write me a check for 10 G's because I already paid mine back?
Joe Biden today set to announce student loan forgiveness if you make less than $125,000 a year. They're gonna, and I think like half of student debt owes half of the people who hold student debt. Half of them owe $10,000 or more. I don't know the numbers, but I know the numbers around here in mid-Missouri. There's got to be at least. So we talk current college students between Mizzou, Lincoln, Missouri State Tech, Central Missouri. Multiply that. Roger said via text. I don't know. Multiply that by 10. All the people that have stayed here after college that still have debt. That's all those
people out there who didn't pay their loans back driving Beamers and live in a big old house. I got friends. I do that are in their 40s, didn't pay it back. Hopefully they're over the income requirement. I think it's $125,000 a year. So hopefully they don't get the forgiveness because I'd be super pissed if they did. I'm already super mad about this whole thing. Yeah. But I graduated and I had $85,000 in debt, went through a Dave Ramsey course, talked about the debt snowball, and, knew that I would just feel better if I, wasn't on the hook to the government. And so paid it back. But yeah, no, this is frustrating. And again, Democrats yesterday, we heard, was it Crystal Quaid saying that,
Springfield, House Minority Leader in Jefferson City.
Yeah. And she said Parson shouldn't, this tax cut's ridiculous because it doesn't help the poor people. Now her people are giving a tax break to people who went to college who are earning probably above average income. And so it's just ridiculous.
So, and that's the thing. It's the mindset you talk about, Crystal Quaid, David Tyson Smith, and this whole thing. Well, we can't be given a tax cut. We can't do that, but we can give people who owe the money. So these people went in, they signed on the dotted line. Hey, you give me this money for these services now, I'll pay you back later. That
hypocrisy.
David Tyson Smith, Democrats in Missouri, Joe Biden. And I'm thinking of business from, say I went to the Toyota dealership in Jefferson City. I say, hey, you give me this Toyota 4Runner, and I want the fancy one. I want the midnight version. Got the bigger tires, got that flat paint, jacked up a little bit with the fancy wheels. You give me this now, I'm going to pay you back later. And then a couple years later, they go, hey, forgive $10,000. Forget about it. What would happen with that car dealership? They'd go out of business.
Yeah, I just had a listener, Hunter, text me and say, what would $10,000 do for the trolley company? And same thing, we had small businesses who went out of business or who are struggling from the pandemic that could really use that 10 G's, right? Who took out loans because their business, suffered during the pandemic. So look around Columbia. Look at all of these folks who had struggles in the last 2 years, who had to take out loans to pay their employees or do whatever. I would much rather give that to an entrepreneur, somebody who's, trying to start something, trying to revamp a business, trying to, revive a business from the pandemic than to give it to a college student who's sitting on their couch. Sorry, Hannah. But seriously, just there's so much better ways to spend this money.
Well, and Sean kind of has an interesting take. He texted us. He said, I would rather pay someone who has paid back their student loans than someone who currently has outstanding student loans. And then he says, that's why I'd rather pay Stephanie over Hannah.
But then think about it. Like, what about folks who are going to Mizzou now, right? Like, or starting next year. So you sign on the dotted line for like 50 G's, like, for next year, and then you get nothing? How is that fair? I hope anybody who's going to Mizzou this year already signed your loan paperwork and gets the 10 G's off of what you just signed.
Well, and
Mm-hmm. Yep. Let's call producer Hannah's parents, actually, see how they feel about this whole thing, Marsh. I think you're onto something there.
Tom has my back. He said, Hannah, how many of those people giving you grief spent their $1,000 COVID checks?
And that's why I'm wondering, and this, I love the comments here that's Representative Carlo Jimenez and I want to play this just again a little bit. And I want to get not what your brain says, Hannah, but what your heart is saying.
It's basically trying to buy votes. $10,000 is a nice incentive. But, I think that even the people that are maybe getting this, forgiveness, this $10,000 loan forgiveness, I think they're smart enough to know that it's really not the right thing to do.
Does that hurt a little?
I wouldn't say it hurts, but it's more like yeah, he's right type of thing.
Because I got to tell you, I hurt for you. And I know, listen, and I want to be very clear here. Producer Hannah, we stereotype because it works a lot of times, and a lot of times it doesn't. And Hannah is one of those. She is not the stereotype of, a college kid that's bought into everything that she learned in public schools and a public university. And give me. Hannah is one of the hardest working 22-year-olds.
And she worked through school, and a lot of people are saying that. Well, when I went to school, you could just work and pay, but school has gotten so expensive that even if you do have a job, as much as you can put in, you can't really keep up with the amount that you would owe for a year with just a part-time job.
And right? I will say too, I did decide to go to an expensive school, and I made that decision knowing that I was going to have to take out student loans. And I was extremely fortunate that my family helped out quite a bit. But I still did make that decision to go to the expensive school over a less expensive school. And I made that decision knowing it would come with debt.
But think about those folks who are making the decision now to go to to do welding or to go to Rankin or to go to, and so, and to do and now people are getting a break who decide to go into what business or what's underwater basket weaving. I mean, people go to school and they get a degree in art or and yeah, you get $10,000 of free school. That's ridiculous.
I would say this, all those college kids, make them take, and I don't know what the requirements are anymore, because back in our day, back when I went to school, Southeast Missouri State University was still SEMO Indians, and we don't do that anymore because some people get bent out of shape and it hurts their feelings, so we don't do that anymore. And I can't remember what they made you, but I say these kids in college, they should be doing in high school. I don't know if it's something parent teaches, whatever. Teach them finance. Teach them budgeting. Teach them simple things like, hey, kids, so you're getting to go to school, and now we're going to just lop $10,000 off your student debt. And by the way, thank everybody you run into today because they're all paying for it, even though they don't have anything to do with it. And then see how that works in real life. I think it disincentivizes kids. It teaches young student kids. Listen, you get onto a campus anyway, and I'll never forget when Hannah was a freshwoman at Mizzou. First thing I remember, commission, man, I can't believe all the credit people on campus just, hey, want a credit card? Like people out there in trench coats, want a credit card? Got a credit card? Got a credit card. And now Joe Biden is teaching because Joe Biden is teaching the same thing. Hey, listen, man, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. The thing. And I think that's a dangerous lesson, I think, to teach kids. Hey, get a loan. You may not even have to pay it back.
Yeah, so when I went to Truman State, I had to take 5-hour calculus. Even art majors, what is the purpose of that, honestly? And everybody had to pass statistics. We had a liberal arts, not liberal in the talk radio-ish terms, but it was a liberal arts school, so we had to take across a variety of subjects. I took agriculture. I went out to the university farm, even though I was a poli-sci major. So, a very a breadth of subjects. But I went back like 10 years later for some leadership. I think they wanted my money, but they invited me back, and that was my big beef. I said, hey, y'all, you did such a good job of, raising well-rounded young folks, and the one thing you did not teach us was personal finance, and you are doing all of us a disservice. And if you want my money, this is what I want. Everybody who goes through the school should have to take a personal finance class, because I came out of, as prepared I was for the workforce, I was not prepared on a personal level. And maybe that's a parental, my parents did a really good job of, I wanted for nothing, really. And I hope my kids want for nothing. But when you have to pay, when you actually have to sign the check and pay those loans back, it's brutal. And if you haven't been taught personal budgeting, it really, you can struggle.
We're so immersed, I think, in all of this. For example, if you're in Columbia, you have a bus system, not just for college kids, bus system, it's free. Well, it's not free. We're paying for it. You get on the bus, you can ride it for free. You've got an incredible, uber liberal city council. So you get these students in Mizzou that, hey, we may not have to pay off our party on, man. It's more beer money at Truman's. And then they get on the free bus, and then we're taking money from charities, by the way. This is for real in Columbia, a charitable organization that works to help stem any potential problems. You kids that maybe, don't have any father figures at home. And then, so the city was giving some money for that. They're taking money away from that program and giving it to homeless. Everything is free. It's all free. I mean, people in Columbia completely immersed in this socialism where you're talking on a federal level with Joe, locally with transportation. How much costs for me to ride a bus in JC? Buck? It's free.
There's like a ride the bus day where you can ride for free. I did ride it one time. It was really nice. Someone told me once in Jeff City, ride the bus. It's really clean because no one rides it. So it's not like nice.
It's not like riding Greyhound from California, Missouri to Kansas City.
The city of Columbia also has some all-electric buses. I don't know if anybody has seen those around town, but they were a couple in the campus loop when I was in college still, and they're really small and they're really quiet.
By the way, Jefferson City, they're doing stuff on transportation. MoDOT also asking for input. How about this? A potential bus service between Columbia and Jefferson City.
Yay.
You hearing any street talk on any of this stuff? It'd be nice to have those buses. Or listen, you want to do buses, cheap buses, free buses? Have them start. What time do bars close anymore? And I have no idea. 1:30, 2 in the morning,
something like that.
I don't know. 1. How about some free buses outside of the bars?
I mean, Columbia just said they were going to spend $200,000 on a bus study. Like, let's just pay for everybody's Uber ride for a year. And how much money would we honestly spend? Let's do the math on that for real.
But first, let's spend $100,000 to form a committee to see whether or not we should do the study. The $200,000. All right, we got to move forward. Coming up, we are gonna. By the way, Scott Spencer, Jefferson City Councilman, he's here Monday, and we're going to be talking about the future from a councilman's point of view, where we are in Jefferson City and kind of the future. And maybe there's tie-in with this proposed thing that MoDOT's talking about, a potential bus service between Jefferson City and Columbia. Coming up, 7:25-ish, we're going to be doing What's Hot with Hannah. What do you have?
Today's What's Hot with Hannah involves a beer, a hot dog, and a really bad idea. I did, yes.
Good morning, 7:25-ish, which means it's
7:27.
time for What's Hot with Hannah.
I saw this on Twitter yesterday, and when I say that it upset me, I was triggered. And I don't normally get triggered over the big stuff. It's always the little stuff that doesn't mean anything anyways, right? So this involves a hot dog and a beer.
Some dude at the radio station, one of the interns after the show, said, "Hey, man, did you see this?" I said, "No," and looked at it, and I didn't know what to think, Hannah.
Yeah, so it's a video taken from a couple rows back from where this guy is doing this. And he buys a hot dog and he buys a beer. He takes a straw and hollows out his hot dog. And he uses the hot dog as a straw for his beer.
What?
It's so gross. Like, I've heard of people putting salt or like a pickle in their beer, but a hot dog straw just crosses so many lines.
I think it gets a few points for the creative aspect and economy. The economical use of whatever is that
good
you
for
have
the
about you.
environment. There's no plastic straw.
And because I know someone is going to ask, he is wearing a New York Yankees ball cap, if that tells you anything. But it's just, it makes me shiver. That's how much I hate this. It's so gross.
Wow. I love it. And we have video posted.
Yeah, it's posted on the Wake Up Facebook page. But, watch with caution.
It's, I'll tell you, because I had, you have those mixed reactions to things. It's kind of like, ooh, but how cool.
He's like very meticulously drilling the hole in the hot dog with the straw. And it reminds me of, have you ever taken Twizzlers and like cut the ends off?
Yes.
And then used it as a straw?
Gross.
Yes.
I don't like Twizzlers.
That's like more acceptable though, because it's like a sweet food with a soda.
I have never seen anyone use a hot dog as a straw.
Yeah, I haven't either until today, and I'm not happy about it.
Hold on.
Some things just can't be unseen.
Adding to the list of things that Stephanie doesn't like.
Twizzlers.
Twizzlers. I didn't know that was on there. Hey, this is a for real story. In Minneapolis, racism is rampant within the teachers' union. They are going, if there's layoffs, they are going to lay off teachers first based on the color of their skin. Judicial Watch has something to say about that. They join us 5 minutes from now this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
seriously, it's that serious. People are afraid, even in the black community, to say that they're Republican or to say that they're questioning what's going on right now. And I think that that's really key right now when you're dealing with anything with politics. People should be able to say what they truly feel without getting persecuted or jabbed down, because these things have to be discussed.
Shimon Jones, she's a Republican candidate for Boone County Recorder of Deeds. Now, I will say she's a Republican candidate and she is black. That's what she is facing, real life stuff on the streets while she's out campaigning. When she's in certain neighborhoods where there are black people, they're like, you're a Republican? But you're not supposed to be a Republican. And we had this lengthy conversation. There's more to that conversation. But she used the phrase, they come out as a Republican. She has told her story before where she has come out to the black community as a Republican and the backlash she got. You know why? It's because progressives, especially white progressives, and look at Joe Biden and all these people, well, you're black. Remember Joe Biden, the whole, hey, you got to be, if you're black, you vote for me. How come? Well, because you're black. You're supposed to. And there are more and more people saying, well, that's complete and utter BS. And that is so disappointing. It's something you see here in mid-Missouri. We talk about how much we love our people and we all get along in her own community, in the black community. And I hate that phrase, in their community. I've never been out hanging out with white dudes and said, well, I'm in my community now. But that's what she is telling us. That she has more and more people that are coming out and saying, I'm a Republican, but I'm afraid to say anything as a black Republican, afraid. That is beyond disheartening. It's beyond disheartening that it happens here. And because we see racism all the time, and I don't want to make this a white-black thing, but I first heard this story. I don't know where you heard it from, Randy Tobler's show or the Gary Nolan show. Randy Tobler's on 4 to 6 weekdays here on the radio station. And I heard the story, and I'm like, oh, that ain't true. That's some far fringe website. My goodness, it is a true story. I want to bring in, by the way, Wake Up Mid-Missouri, Stavity Bell, John Marsh, producer Hannah. My name is Branden Rathert. Something we can do for you, 874-9390. Minneapolis Teachers Union saying, hey, listen, if there are layoffs, if you're white, we're going to make a decision based on the color of your skin. As I understand the Merriam-Webster's dictionary definition of racism, to make decisions, pass judgments, what have you, based on the color of somebody's skin. Minneapolis School District is saying, if there are layoffs,
and you're white,
we're going to lay the white people, as Tracy Wilson Kleekamp, who claims to be a black activist here in mid-Missouri, white people, we're going to lay the white people off first. I understand that to be racism, but what do I know? I ain't no attorney. Michael Bekesha, Judicial Watch, joining us on the show. Am I simplifying that story, or is that really the brunt of this story, Michael?
Oh, you got it exactly right. You know, I think everybody knows that when layoffs happen, it's pretty normal around the country that the last teacher out is the first, or the last teacher in is the first teacher out, right? It's seniority based when it comes to layoffs. And Minneapolis didn't like that, and the union was pushing hard. They went on strike, so students were not in school for 14 school days because they wanted all of these different provisions. And one of the provisions they wanted was if you were going to lay off teachers, the school district had to say the first teacher to be laid off was black. They couldn't lay off that teacher. They had to skip that teacher and find a white teacher and then lay off that white teacher.
How do they
push for?
Yeah. What's their justification for that?
They want more black teachers.
Now, this isn't the first foray you've had into that. We talked a little bit about your lawsuit with the mayor, who said she wasn't going to interview any white or take any interviews with any white journalists. You guys filed a suit there, and I seem to recall that it was just the lawsuit that encouraged her to reimagine her position, and she decided maybe that wasn't a great thing for her to do. Is that right?
That's right. The mayor of Chicago, Mayor Lightfoot, because of our litigation, had her communications director tell us under oath during a deposition, and then the mayor's lawyers told the court, "Oh, we're never going to do this again," even though she went on TV and laughed about it, and then told the New York Times she would absolutely do it again. Because of our lawsuit,
she backed away from that. Is that going to happen here in Minneapolis? I hope they realize that they should do the right thing and get rid of this racist policy, but, the school district will probably double down. And I saw that the teachers union was already attacking Judicial Watch last night. So we must be doing something right.
So you guys, so you're going in, you're filing a lawsuit and what against the Minneapolis Teachers Union, who was saying, hey, if you're white or if there's layoffs based on the color of your skin, we're going to lay the white people off first. Judicial Watch getting involved. So what are you guys trying to do here, Michael?
Yeah, so we represent a Minneapolis taxpayer, and she's a property owner in Minneapolis, and because of that, some of that tax money goes to the schools. So we are suing the school district, the superintendent, and the school board in Minneapolis, saying you can't enforce this contract. It's unconstitutional. It violates the the Minnesota Constitution. They have an equal protection clause, much like the federal Constitution. So we're going in and asking the judge to stop government officials from violating the Minnesota Constitution.
And this
it's really that simple.
Yeah, and this whole mindset, by the way, and we see it in a local school district, Columbia Public School District. I've had parents send me so many things. We had the superintendent on over a year ago. No, we're not. We have no intention to teach critical race theory. We submitted a bunch of money to learn this stuff from. It's in there, and man, I'll tell you, Michael, my heart was broken because I'm like, yeah, okay, they're teaching this stuff in there. I had parents send me a homework assignment. Columbia Public School District. It had something to do with Thanksgiving, and this kid, they sent me photographs of this kid's assignment, and I can't remember, it had something to do with Native Americans, and the kid said something, no, because I would feel bad about this. I'm like, they are teaching that in schools. Our guest talking about this incredibly racist policy in the Minneapolis School District, true story, Minneapolis, saying, hey, listen, man, if there's layoffs, based on the color of your skin, if you're white, we're going to lay you off first. He's joining us this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri. John, quit being funny, dude. Go ahead, Mike. Do you even want to answer the question? Because we know.
That's the problem. We unions these days are they're political advocacy groups, and they fight for their positions. And common sense and the law and logic are no longer part of what they're doing. I've heard from many teachers, both in Minneapolis and other places around the country, that are getting fed up with their unions because they are only representing some educators' interests and not all educators these days.
Yeah, now you had a big win, though, in California recently over something kind of similar, and it was California passed a law where boards were going to require that boards had a certain number of women. And you said, hey, wait a minute, you can't just force women onto, boards. And that was a big win for Judicial Watch, right?
Absolutely. There were actually two laws, one that required a certain number of women on corporate boards and the other one that required a certain number of diverse candidates, minority candidates on board, so race and ethnic quotas. And Judicial Watch sued on behalf of a few taxpayers in California against both of those, and we had two big victories there. So, Judicial Watch is fighting what seems to be racial discrimination that's popping up and happening all across the country. We also sued in Asheville, North Carolina, because they had the town had created a scholarship that only black students could enter into. So, we're seeing this all around the country, and we just continue fighting it because if the Equal Protection Clause of the federal Constitution or state constitutions are going to mean anything, if the law is going to matter, it has to be equal. It has to be for everyone, and that's just not happening these days.
Let me ask you this, Michael Bekesha, Judicial Watch, going after the Minneapolis School District for the racist policy of laying off white teachers first. I'm wondering, and I don't know what the response is, but what is the I don't even know how number one, how it could even happen in the first place. But what would you anticipate is their legal argument to say, yeah, racism is legal as long as, what's that mindset, Michael?
That's a good question. And we just filed the lawsuit, so probably in a month or so, we'll start getting a sense of what their legal justification is. I know publicly the school district has come out and said that each year there are more black teachers being laid off than white teachers, and so this was a way to try to fix that problem. But, the law is pretty clear. Just because you want an increase in diversity doesn't mean you can discriminate.
Mizzou Law is having a big event this fall for like their 150th, and they're inviting all the alumni back. Are you coming back to Columbia? I'm going to put you on the spot. Come on.
I haven't been to Columbia since 2009, and I didn't know anything about it. I don't think the law school likes what I'm doing out in D.C., so I don't hear much from them.
I do want to get a quick update from you, because you all were the first to file in about the Mar-a-Lago raid, trying to get that warrant unsealed, and now we're expecting here this week to see what the redacted warrant. Are you expecting a completely blacked out page, completely redacted, or what? What are you expecting?
Yeah, I'm expecting not to see anything this week. The government's going to file the redacted version of the affidavit with the court, and I think the judge is going to look at it and go line by line. And we are hopeful, and we were the first to file a motion to unseal it. Our attorneys argued on behalf of Judicial Watch in the hearing last week, and what our attorney said was, Judge, you need to make as much available to the public as possible, because transparency and, sunlight, as they say, is the most important thing, because people are questioning what the motives of the FBI and the Justice Department were. So are we going to see the whole thing? No. Are we going to see a majority of it? Probably not. There are going to be a lot of blacked out pages, blacked out lines when it's finally released. But as usual, Judicial Watch will continue fighting it until we can get as much information as possible.
Before we let you go, I did want to apologize for something earlier when Stephanie put you on the spot about coming back for this alumni event. That's like a dude in public who proposes, like, let's say you're at Busch Stadium and they put you up on the screen and the dude proposes in front of 48,000 baseball fans and she has to say yes. That's what Stephanie just did to you. And actually, I'm going to give Steph some points on that. Michael Bekesha, Judicial Watch. By the way, they're doing incredible work like this all the time, and they have a website so you can follow what it is that they are doing, judicialwatch.org. Man, thanks for hanging out with us again. It's always good to have you back here in your adopted hometown.
Thanks so much, and if I do come back, hopefully Stephanie will host me, so now I can put her on the spot.
Yes, I will.
And then Michael Bekesha gets points. We'll nominate him for one of our winners of the week. We do that
she doesn't make the case about what's wrong with the way she's being covered. She says that she implies that she's being covered unfairly, that there's implicit or explicit bias, but she never makes the case for how that plays out in the media.
That was going back to Lori Lightfoot somewhere. Whenever Lori Lightfoot said, I'm not going to talk to white journalists, these incredibly racist people, and people like Judicial Watch, they get involved and say, wait a minute, I'm not sure, but let me look at the dictionary. I think that is racist. Wake Up. Mid-Missouri. It's the name of the show. KWOS and 93.9 The Eagle. We do appreciate you being here. Coming up, Feel Good Fridays. We celebrate some of the cooler things happening in the news, lay off some of the heavy stuff a little bit, and then 8:35 we pick winners and losers of the week. We're always taking nominations, and I love it. And the more localer, the more importanter the nominees are. So you can always get those into us at our text 573-874-9390. A lot of folks reacting to. So Stephanie Bell, producer Hannah, John Marsh, Brian Houseworth. My name is Branden. Nice to meet you, man. Do appreciate you being here and at least sampling a little bit. What's hot with Hannah today? Because it's our text is on fire.
It's triggered me. Okay, it's triggered the internet. It's triggered Yankees fans. It's triggered everyone. It's a dude using a hot dog that he drilled a hole in as a straw for his beer. That's so gross.
That was my initial reaction because one of the interns showed me a video yesterday. I'm like, ugh. But points. Kind of ingenious. Kind of gross. And dudes, by the way, are not supposed any kind of drink. You ain't supposed to drink it. Well, I should say any alcoholic drink. Listen, pro tip, don't drink your drink out of a straw. And I don't know why.
Dudes are not supposed to use a straw?
No, well, like mixed drinks, don't use a straw.
It's an ick, for sure.
And I don't know why that is. And I'm also wondering, by the way, before we get into this blank in a beer can, at what age, and I'm thinking about this because I did this the other day, and I'm like, this doesn't look, what's the cutoff age for a dude to wear his ball cap backwards? Like, what age should we quit doing that? Because the other day, so I put it on to keep, because I'm bald, and I was walking outside, and so I put on a hat, but usually I have it forward. Well, I turned it around, and I get into the gym, and I look in the mirror, and I'm like, man, you're 51 years old, Branden. You should not be wearing your ball cap backwards.
Oh, never.
Is there a cutoff like 14, 15? Is it 18? At 18, quit wearing your ball cap backwards as a dude?
No, never.
Never? Even
Never.
12-year-old?
Yeah, I mean, you've heard of catfishing, and there's a new thing called hat fishing. Because definitely guys who are like a 6 with a backwards hat, 10, like immediately, like it's a thing.
Same with beards. Like sometimes a beard really makes or breaks a dude.
Really? To the good or to the bad?
I guess it could be either way. Right. I guess it depends on your opinion of beards.
And the mullet with the backwards hat?
Gross.
10.
10, negative 10?
No.
Blank in a beer can. Now they are putting blank in a beer can.
It's not in a beer can. I brought one of these in for you. Liquid Death. It's water. And people think you're drinking. I actually took one to the Board of Aldermen meeting, and someone was like, is that an old English? And I'm like, no, I'm not drinking in the Alderman meeting. It's water. They have sparkling water, flavored water. It's called Liquid Death. It's delicious. But you can go to concerts, and if you don't want a hangover or you're not drinking, you can have a tall boy of water.
So it's water, but it looks like it's in a beer can. Pretty cool.
This building, we thought it was rather large. That was over 45 years ago, but it was small because it housed everything. It housed the football players, which there were about 30 some of those, the coaching staff. The coaching staff consisted of Hank Stram, the head coach, and 4 assistant coaches.
Okay, that is Len Dawson. Of course, you think of the Chiefs, it's Len Dawson, Len Dawson, Len Dawson. Kansas City news outlets reporting legendary quarterback, longtime broadcaster has apparently died. And Marsh, your memories of Mr. Len Dawson? Lenny. Yeah. Yeah. Man. Of course, that led the Kansas City Chiefs to a Super Bowl victory, has died. This is according to family members. Today, he was 87 years old with wife Linda at his side. It is with much sadness that we inform you of the passing of our beloved Len Dawson. It was interesting. I was listening to the Chiefs game on the radio preseason. I guess it was this past weekend, and they got word that he had been moved to hospice. I was like, oh, man, that bummed me out. But I also know the guys on the broadcast, John, they were kind of lashed out at whoever it was because I don't know if it was supposed to be known to the public. I mean, listen, since you're closer than I am, do you want it announced if you ever get moved to hospice? Do you want us to come on to the radio station here and go, John Marsh is in hospice? I don't. Yeah. No. And that's the. Yeah, but I thought it was an interesting take because those guys in the broadcast booth, in the radio broadcast, they were friends. You know, they've got a relationship with him. But yeah, we're the public. We're fans. He is Chiefs football. It was just kind of odd. Again, Len Dawson, legendary quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs. Hall of Fame quarterback, led the Chiefs to a Super Bowl win, has died at the age of 87, obviously. He'd been dealing with various health issues over the years. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Stephanie Bell, producer Hannah, John Marsh, Brian Hausworth. I am Branden Rathert. Let's bring in another old white guy, talk about memories of Len Dawson. We do want to talk about other things. Scott Faughn, Missouri Times, joining us. I think you're older than all of us here in the room.
This morning I feel a little older.
Yeah.
I'm coming to you from downtown Jefferson City, where John Marsh is absolutely a hospice press release announcing legend.
He does.
No question. Yeah.
Man, that's and you know. And here's the thing, and I get it now at my age. I'm like, you know, that's what some of my childhood heroes do. They die, but you hate when that day comes, and that day has come for Len Dawson, Chiefs quarterback. All right, Scott Faughn joining us now, Missouri. Hey, listen, I want to tell you before we get going, and frankly, the purpose of our visit as Scott Faughn has Missouri Times, great political stuff, Missouri politics, what's roiling out under the Capitol there. Scott Faughn is on it. Before we move any further, you and I have always been honest in our relationship, and I want to tell you, I take exception to an article that you wrote recently regarding when Eric Schmitt wins the Senate, and you had a fascinating article. I do want to talk about it some more, but you and I are going to have to get past this first. I'm always honest to our guests. I take exception. You wrote an article about potential replacements for the Attorney General for Eric Schmitt. And you talked about former House Speaker Tim Jones, and you talked about his rising media fame, who he works with the Zimmer Group in Springfield. You mentioned Stephanie Bell, but you didn't say anything about her rising star in the world of media. And I'm mad, Scott.
Well, I'm just a little nervous because if she's Attorney General, let's just be honest, my taxes aren't exactly in order. So I'm trying to walk a fine line here. You know, I've been known to maybe be on the other side of the law every so often. So, you know, trying to have friends in high places.
Man, we dig your honesty this morning. Scott Faughn, Missouri Times. And that's, if you're a newer listener to Wake Up Mid-Missouri, I hope that you will come to know as you give us a chance, check the show out for a bit, you will come to know that about us. We are very honest, and we have a sense of realness about ourselves, whether they're character defects or the good things about us, man. We are real about ourselves. Interesting question that you've covered in the Missouri Times. Let's say Eric Schmitt, because we've been through this before, incidentally, in our recent history. Got to replace the Attorney General. So let's start. And you wrote a great article, and here's some names out there. Some names are going, oh, yeah. Kurt Schaefer, for example. Hadn't heard that name for a while, and the general public want to get to that. But let's start with one, Mrs. Stephanie Bell. What's your reasoning for you putting her on this list?
Well, look, the list of Republican lawyers in this state is a pretty finite group. When you think of attorneys, you generally are thinking of mostly Democrats. But the reason that Stephanie stood out on that list is that, well, one, she's been at the center of all kinds of very high-profile public litigation. She is very well known, in large part due to her radio career. But also, I mean, when you start breaking it down, the Attorney General's job is one that very uniquely in the state relies on a lot of national connections. And Stephanie's built up an entire roster of folks nationally that she can lean on. It is really, people, I think it's an underreported thing, what a big deal when you're the Missouri Attorney General, any state Attorney General at this point, being able to rely on a network around the state, especially as a Republican, for folks to consult with and organize and help. And Stephanie has, well, one, the high-profile cases, where she's been at the center of a lot of big litigation, and two, she probably has the best national network of anybody on that list. So, yeah, I mean, and Mike Parson, let's just be honest. If Mike Parson has the chance to appoint a woman to an important job, take his Supreme Court pick he made, look around the appointments he's made, Mike Parson generally enjoys appointing women. Now, if you ever put it to him like, oh, you're going to just appoint a woman, he'll blow up about that. He has no interest in that. But I just think I think it's subconscious, honestly. And a lot of that is your Columbia guy, Aaron Willard. I think that's something he's cared about. And so for those reasons, I mean, you absolutely could be short a co-host before long.
Well, I'll tell you this. I don't think if she were to leave here to become the Attorney General, she would have to take a pay cut if she were to leave Wake Up Mid-Missouri. I don't think she is interested in doing that. Scott Faughn.
Oh, well, maybe that's how you keep her, is she can pick up radio work on the side and her meager government salary.
I appreciate all the kudos, but I will say, like, your list, I got a lot of friends on that list. My law partner, Mark Ellinger, made the list. Kurt Schaefer here in town, good friend, lots of people that I work with. And I will say it speaks to, and we talked about in the Senate race, we had so many candidates. I mean, we just have as Republicans, we have this huge, deep bench of talented, qualified folks. And that's why we saw so many people get in the race I would say in the Senate race and in the fourth. And I think, as we stare down 2024, we're going to see, folks step up to the plate. And it's nice. I think if Democrats looked around right now, they really have nobody. I mean, who is their auditor candidate? I don't even know.
Alan Green.
Alan Green. Okay.
Former rep.
But it is nice to know that we have so many Republicans, talented, qualified folks on our side that in the statewide space. So.
Yeah, Scott, I want to follow up on that because that is interesting about Stephanie Bell. And the one thing about the Attorney General's office, Eric Schmitt is focused so much on the masks and on this national stuff. Very important. But traditionally, and I'm not saying it's not important. It is very important to our listeners, the stuff he's talked about. But traditionally, that office is focused a lot on consumer protection. And we don't hear that as much. At least we don't get it in the headlines as much from this Attorney General. We just don't, Scott. What do you think?
Look, I will tell you. Now, I personally know Eric Schmitt. I probably interviewed him more than anybody in this state. Probably cracked more beers open with than anybody in the state. But I'll be honest with you. I think that Eric Schmitt believed in every single thing he did at the Colonel. But since he was running for Senate, his style changed. Now, he would argue with that and probably be mad for me saying that, but that's my opinion.
Sure.
Just a simple hillbilly from West Butler County. I think he acted very ostentatiously. And I don't think that's not the guy I know that I've seen on Facebook and Twitter, which is his own little alternative reality anyway. This is my belief. The person who is as close to Roy Blunt as this state was going to elect is Eric Schmitt. Mm-hmm. I believe, yes. Do I think the mask stuff really hit home? Yeah, I do. Do I think some of this other stuff, I'll be honest with you, the CRT stuff or whatever, in my opinion, is just engineered by charter school lobbyists to take money out of public education and stick it in charter schools in St. Louis, which are, by the way, 50 times more liberal than any public school in this state. And yeah, I think most of that is just charter school lobbyist crap, is what we say in West Butler County. And I don't think it's serious. I think when he goes to the Senate, Eric Schmitt got along with all of his colleagues in the Senate. He's very well liked. Yes, he would do things like the pork steak rebellion. And you know what, Brian? We would all cover it.
Right.
But he would also, when he had a bill, you saw this, when Eric Schmitt filed, he didn't file a ton of bills. When he filed a bill, he took it very seriously.
Yep.
It had an excellent chance of passing. All of his colleagues respected it. When he got on the floor, you never seen Eric Schmitt embarrassed on the floor. All the things I've seen. So when you go to Washington, the hallways part for Roy Blunt. He is so respected amongst his colleagues, Republican, Democrat, bureaucracy, whatever administration. To me, I think Roy Blunt's in the Mount Rushmore of U.S. senators from Missouri. And honestly, is this state prepared to elect another Roy Blunt? No, it wasn't. And that says a lot about us. Do I think Eric Schmitt, once he gets in there and gets in the office, he will be right there. And in 5 years from now, when he has to put the clown nose back on and act like he's insane to run again, I think people like yourself, myself, other serious people that care about the state of Missouri will say, you know what? He's got to do what he's got to do. He did a great job for the state. So put your clown nose on, buddy. Go after it.
Scott Faughn, Missouri Times, joining us. Great article on there regarding who could eventually replace Attorney General Eric Schmitt if Eric Schmitt wins the Senate. He's joining us this morning here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Well, I mean, let's be honest. He's appointed 3. One of them got promoted from treasurer, which I'm not even sure what treasurer does, to the auditor, which is a very significant job in state government. His AG appointment's going to the U.S. Senate. Mike Keogh's running for governor. I mean, the Mike Parson Employment Agency is a great way to kickstart your career.
Mike Parson Employment Agency.
I'll be honest with you. I think he will. Whether it's the goal. I interviewed him for my show this week in Missouri Politics. He was my guest. We stood on the rail at the state fair at the cattle gate and talked hogs, dogs, and logs. And the one thing he told me that he was very clear about is he wants somebody that can provide some consistency in the office. He wants someone that's going to serve there for 4, 8, 10 years and really put their heart and soul into being Attorney General. And I think that's what he really cares about. So I think his first and foremost goal with treasurer pick, probably pick somebody that'll kind of boost their career up the ranks a little bit. But my gut is with the AG pick, he's going to want somebody that's going to want to do that job for a while.
All right.
I think that's going to be his top pick.
Got to move forward here. I don't mean to cut you off, and I'm going to ask you to make a retraction in that article and just completely remove Stephanie Bell's name from your list of folks. And it's an interesting read because there's a couple of names in there that you go, I have not heard that name in Missouri politics for a while. It's Missouri Times. Check it out. Missouri Times, Scott Faughn. And before I let you go, I got to give listener Jack some points. Sends us a text, 874-9390. Says, if the governor appoints Stephanie Bell to Attorney General, who does the governor appoint to co-host Mornings of Wake Up Mid-Missouri? I love where your head's at.
Well, I bet it's not Jack Danforth. If that's Jack Danforth's next thing, finding for a job. I mean, if he does, I can assure you, your streak of rating success will go straight in the toilet. I mean, he's not been successful at anything in my entire life.
Scott Faughn, Missouri Times. We appreciate you, bud.
Thank you, guys. Have a good morning.
John F. Wood dropping out of that Senate race yesterday as an independent candidate. 8:27, it's time for the Morning Bell Business News with a little twist that only Stephanie Bell can give you.
I am currently posting my first Be Real. Hannah, do you know what this app is?
I don't.
Let me guess.
Oh,
Can I guess?
I'm cool.
I'm going to guess it's got something to do with selfies.
Hey.
All right, sorry.
Okay, so, and oh my gosh, I'm so nervous. Okay, so it came out yesterday that, Instagram has copied a lot of other folks, and we talk a lot in the Morning Bell about folks just copying others, whether it be Netflix copying Amazon Prime. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. I guess Chick-fil-A is going to do egg bites, and they're copying Starbucks, but it came out yesterday that Instagram is going to do these, I think they're called candid challenges, and I was like, what in the world is that? And if you recall, there used to not be Instagram, and Brandon, we're going to be over your head for a minute. But there used to not be
the old guy in the room.
There used to not be like Instagram stories, and that was really a Snapchat type feature where you could kind of like, I don't know, before you just posted in the Instagram feed, now you do stories. Instagram stole that from Snapchat, and I think actually pulled a lot of business away from Snapchat. Now they're doing these candid things, and I'm like, where is that from? And the number one app currently in the App Store is an app called Be Real. And social media catches a lot of flack. And they say, don't believe everything you read on the internet. And at the same time, for Instagram, a lot of people, if you look at my Instagram, I don't post ugly photos of myself on Instagram.
Because there are none.
Right. And I don't post pictures of my messy house. I, clear all the clutter. And then I'm like, oh, I'm having my morning coffee.
It's the highlight reel of your life.
It
right?
really is.
Yeah.
And you can say what you want about that. So this new app called Be Real, they, I guess, send you a notification, and you have like 2 minutes to take a picture of yourself, and it takes not only a selfie, but also it takes...
Wait, so I was right. It does have to do with selfies. Yes.
It does. But so I think it takes a picture of you, and it takes a back camera view, so you get whatever's facing you and wherever you're at. And it's called Be Real. And so it's like what's happening in your current life. So you don't get to choose when the notification comes out. You just have to hope that you're, I guess, in a cute boutique or at a cute coffee shop when the notification comes out. But I think it's interesting, and Instagram's going to pick that up.
I wonder what happens if you don't do your selfie within 2 minutes. It's like Mission Impossible. It's self-destruct. By the way, we have answers. At what age should a dude quit wearing his hat backwards? That's 5 minutes from now.
about a third of a scholar's life is spent in school. But within our schools, we have the ability to influence our scholars in ways that are uplifting and beneficial.
Dr. Brian Yearwood, Super CPS Schools, chatting with ABC 17, talking about mental health stuff that I will keep going back to. We've seen specific examples in the school district that he is the superintendent of, some of the things that have happened in those schools. I bet you need some mental health counseling. I bet you do, man. I bet you do. I will say this, and I think Mr. Houseworth, weren't you at the Columbia Pachyderm meeting too, where he went and he did a presentation?
Yes.
And I believe it's Fred Perry, publisher emeritus of Inside Columbia Magazine, wrote an article about him because there's some things he's been on this show before and vehemently disagree with some things that happened there. And the whole scholar-student thing, I don't get the big deal on that. Whatever. Do we call the Mizzou athletes? Do we call them student athletes or scholar athletes yet? Has it moved up that chain, Marsh? Are you aware of that? Yeah. Well, in CPS, they're on this big kick. Our scholars, they don't call them students. And I don't know what the reasoning is. I'm sure there's some kind of PC reason. But anyway, Fred Perry has Dr. Fred Perry. Former Boone County Commissioner, yes. Publisher emeritus, Inside Columbia Magazine, which is a subsidiary of Zimmer. I don't know if I'm legally have to say that. Anyhow. He says, I think the guy is talented. He has a remarkable story, humble upbringings, and really what Dr. Yearwood, what he did, really. He came from like Trinidad or Jamaica or somewhere. I don't remember.
Very poor, and basically tennis was his way out. He got scholarships, and that's how he made it out. But just the poverty, no running water at home. I mean, his presentation at the Pachyderms was very interesting. It was right before the April bond issue, but he really the questions weren't from the audience about the bond issue. They were grilling about CRT and stuff like that. So it was definitely it was interesting. But he answered all their questions, no doubt.
By the way, I'm speaking. I hate to say speaking. They asked, hey, can you come to the Columbia Pachyderms? We do it every Friday, barbecue joint there on Stadium and Forum, and they get together like 11:30, and then noon they have somebody get up and say some words and stuff. And
answer questions.
And so I'm going there for, I don't know what I'm going to talk about on Friday, and which I never do. Every time I go, I'm like, well, what do you want me to talk about? I don't know. Well, then we have something in common because I don't know what I'm going to talk about either. We'll figure it out when we get there. That's Welcome awesome. Into the show. This is so I'm laughing. And all these local school leaders, renewed focus on mental health. Yeah, you see some of the crap you're doing in the schools? I bet you have issues with mental health. This is Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Welcome into it. I want to introduce you to Stephanie Bell. What's your elevator pitch on yourself? I don't mean to catch you off guard, but I just got to thinking about elevator pitches because Thursday last week I was hanging out. I was at the Piccadilly a couple of weeks ago, and then I was at a Jefferson City Chamber event. And it wasn't my intent, but it was. I kind of ended up, but it wasn't mine because I don't have an elevator pitch. People say, "Who are you? Tell me about yourself." I don't know, man. I'm just some guy, and I try to help my community and try to get involved and help better other people's lives. And
that's a pretty good elevator pitch.
Yeah. Okay, all right, that'll work. What's yours?
I know it depends on who I'm talking to.
I am so good and so talented and do so many things. I couldn't get it into a 15-second elevator. I could do your elevator pitch for you. As a matter of fact, I was talking to a city councilman in Jefferson City, and he said, I don't think I've met Stephanie in person, but I know she's a rock star.
My Twitter, when I first joined Wake Up Mid-Missouri, it said, I'm excited to offer my lawyer, mom, alderwoman, millennial, political, and non-political insights to Wake Up. So
Boom.
Lawyer, mom, alderwoman, millennial.
Taking that elevator ride to the top.
That's awesome.
Houseworth, 15 seconds, elevator pitch.
Reporters should focus on objectivity, accuracy, attribution, integrity.
Hannah? Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's cool. Journal integrity and stuff. Yeah, we applaud that. Producer Hannah.
I don't know. I had to do this freshman year of college for a class, and I hated it, and I have tried not to think about it since then. So, an elevator pitch for myself.
Yeah. Right? Isn't it weird to talk about yourself?
I don't know. If somebody asks you to talk about yourself, you suddenly forget everything about yourself and don't know what to say.
It's easier for other folks to talk about you, which we do need to say, Branden, you left out something important out of your elevator pitch about today.
Yes, you did.
Man, come on.
Come on. Today, Branden celebrates 2 years of sobriety.
Yay!
And we're so proud.
That's awesome.
I will tell you, last year was,
Oh, my gosh.
was a deal.
So last year, we were also 1 day off from his actual sobriety date. And I was 1 year off this year again. So this morning, we had listeners actually texting us this morning, members of the Wake Up family, who have been keeping track of the days with you, congratulating you on 2 years. And I sat here and I was like, oh no, I missed it. I thought it was tomorrow, but regardless, congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that. 2 years ago, I came in here, and this is a true story. And it wasn't the only time. It was just the worst time.
Yes.
Is it all right if I pull up? Because I don't want to talk about this for too long. I'm glad I'm sober today. But, yeah, I am sober, and I say all the time, and we do have people that reach out to us. If you or somebody you know is having an issue, whether it's booze, drugs, whatever it is, somebody who battled with this for years. By the time I ended up in Valley Hope 2 years ago, it was my 13th treatment center. Arrests, a couple of DUIs, a couple of lost jobs, a couple of divorces, but more importantly, just general malaise and just a miserable human being. I mean, I lived to drink and go home and watch South Park, and really that's all. And my head hurt, my heart hurt. I woke up most mornings crying, looking in the mirror and crying because I was just and it's this almost this doom that you can't put into words. And I had tried I tried getting sober starting in 1986 and then really tried in 2005, and all those legal issues and all the things that happened at work. Thank God, Zimmer, my gosh. You know, we talk about great places to work, and we talk about, but Zimmer, what they do for their employees, and I have to thank them. But it was just, I would just never thought that I would be sober. I was destined to die a drunk.
On this day 2 years ago, I don't think I would have guessed that you would be where you are today.
Hannah was here that morning.
I was.
And on this day a year ago, you were so angry. So for those new listeners, we hijacked your show a year ago when I was a newer member of Wake Up Mid-Missouri. But we had a fun first anniversary celebration. The governor called in and congratulated you, and you've talked with him at length about your journey. Your dad called in.
Your son, your sister.
It was so good.
So probably the best radio show in my life that I've ever been involved with. And Marsh, don't think you're getting away from your elevator pitch, by the way, just because we've stopped the doors and we've gotten off and we're milling around on the fourth floor here. We had Attorney General AG Schmitt, because it was another lawsuit against the Columbia Public School District.
Masks, as I recall.
Yeah, and that was the truly unfortunate thing, I guess, is that there actually was big breaking news that we needed to talk about.
So we come in that morning, and I had talked to the Attorney General Schmitt, I think, earlier that morning, because he was busy suing the Columbia Public School District. I'm like, hey, if I get some of your time now, and where we had it scheduled and everything, and go to it, and the girls was, well, hold up, and I'm like, what's going on? And
you were not pleased.
Poor Christopher Arps.
Christopher Arps, who's here, ChristopherArps.com, here every Tuesday, talks local politics. He calls in, and
you were not kind. You weren't unkind. You were just, you could hear it. Yeah, you were frustrated.
So is what happened.
Because you didn't know the plan.
I didn't know what was going on.
Exactly, which was the whole point. And because usually you're driving the bus, and we wanted to surprise you and make it special, and it was.
He kept saying, I don't know what's going on. We're like, that's the point. You're being surprised.
But like Hannah said about the elevator pitch, it's weird to talk about yourself. And so if you would have known that we were going to dedicate the whole show to your progress and to celebrating you, you would have been awkward about it. So we had to surprise you.
You're right.
He texted our boss.
I did. So it's like 6:20 in the morning, and I said, are you in the building today? Because I turned and I said,
This Stephanie Bell girl, she's got to go.
I said, please don't ever do that again. I don't know if I was that nice about it. And I'm a low-key guy. I don't get, there's very few things that excite me.
He calls it the most challenging time for higher education since World War II. Missouri Chancellor Moon Choi trying to steer teens to tens of thousands of students and teachers and staff through it.
Wow.
That takes me back.
That was 2 years ago. Wow. John, your elevator pitch? I know, right? Let's do that later. By the way, a couple of kudos, John. Can you give we got a nice gift here already. And if you're watching our show on the YouTube channel, which is Wake Up Mid-Missouri, we got a couple of nice gifts yesterday. It says "Let's go, Branden," which is cool. And who can we thank for that? Well, thank you, man. You're cool. And then apparently a former mayor in Jefferson City reached out to you. Whoa. Please tell them that Stephanie, producer Hannah, Brian Houseworth, we all thank him. So, and by the way, this, before we get on to the next thing here, this is not planned, really. But the folks from CenterPointe Hospital of Columbia, they're going to be joining us, talking about what they're doing here in the community. We'll do that 5 minutes from now here on Wake Up Mid-Missouri.
Low numbers mean fully new coronavirus cases. There have been in the district in the past 2 weeks. Low numbers mean fully in-person learning is an option. But according to district's online COVID tracker, it looks like, man.
Did you slow that down?
No, that's 2
was
years
rough.
ago. That's the last day in my life that I drank, August 24th, 2020. And I was on, and you can see why. And I was yanked off the air and gone for a month. Welcome to the show. Wake Up Mid-Missouri. Stephanie Bell, producer Hannah, Brian Houseworth, John Marsh. My name is Branden Rathert. Want to introduce, and this is just by chance, this is not planned that we have CenterPointe Hospital on the show today. It's not planned. It's not because of anything. It's because of the tremendous work of Robert Marsh, who is the new CEO, CenterPointe Hospital, and they focus on mental health. Welcome into Mid-Missouri. Welcome into Columbia. How you liking it so far, man?
We're loving Columbia. It's been a great community. Family's really been enjoying. Of course, we got down and had some ice cream at Sparky's. Everybody talked about it, so it's been a phenomenal transition so far.
Well, welcome, and we value your expertise and your knowledge and insight. CenterPointe Hospital, who does a lot, and we know, and there's some people, Janet Thompson, one of the Boone County commissioners, her and some people formerly in law enforcement, I think a retired justice, too. They've worked very hard over the past several years saying, you know what, for example, in jails, if we focus a little bit on the mental health issues, maybe these people will quit coming back to jail. Ultimately, that is going to save us some money, and obviously a lot of emphasis placed on mental health issues now. So what is it that you guys have been doing at CenterPointe that makes you guys so successful in helping us with mental health issues?
Sure. So I think two things that key on to be one, variety. So we treat everyone from children clear up to geriatric patients and everything in between, because mental health affects all of us, not just one set. Variety. And I think the other place is the extension of services we have. You know, everything from music therapy to traditional talk therapy to outpatient therapy to medication management to inpatient care. So depending on where people are at on their journey with mental health, they could need a variety of services, and we really have the ability to key on that.
And I get it, there's still some people, pick yourself up by your bootstraps and move forward. And sometimes there is something to that, but it's funny because having, besides the drinking and the drugs over the years, serious mental health issues, those people, and I don't fault them. Sure. They don't understand. I mean, when you wake up and your brain you don't want to get up, you want to spend your lifetime under the covers. They don't get it. But how do you feel like we're kind of overcoming some of that?
I think we've made a lot of progress the last couple of years. We still have a long ways to go. You know, there's so many studies out there now that are showing the impact of mental health on physical health, right? And how that's very transitional. And so a lot of that, and we've worked with Boone County Hospital and a variety of other organizations to really focus in on that and understand how getting people in the right mindset is not only better for their physical health, but it also keeps ERs clear. It helps keep our hospitals, especially during a pandemic, right, to keep people where they need to be. So I think the taboo around it is slowly shifting in the right direction, but we've still got a lot of work to do.
So what kind of trends have you seen? I mean, we know that COVID, played a part, and especially we've been talking about the impact on children.
Yeah.
What kind of trends are you seeing after the pandemic as far as mental health goes?
So there's a lot of things. When the pandemic hit, initially a lot of these schools, they went to in-home learning, right, virtual learning, and so families that were used to having that time away and separate, and parents that were used to being able to go to work, all of a sudden they didn't have anywhere for their kids to be anymore. I mean, the stress surrounding that and kids being in homes where they may not have internet, right? It really exacerbated those issues. But as we've transitioned back to the classroom, and I think school started back up here yesterday, I dropped off my daughter for 3rd grade. So I think it's better, but there's still it's going to be years of working to undo a lot of the issues surrounding that, for
That's
sure.
Why I get frustrated when we hear school leaders and education leaders, we got to focus on mental health. Yeah, look at what you did, man.
Yeah.
Folks have some issues, or even, and I don't want to say have issues, but maybe want to learn more. Maybe they know somebody. What's the best way to get in touch with CenterPointe Hospital?
So the first thing I always tell people, if you're in crisis, go to a hospital. Yeah. Right. So don't ever hesitate. Call 911.
988 too is maybe not. If you're having issues, call 988.
Yep. But you can call us. You can walk in the front door. We're staffed 24/7. We have people prepared to receive patients at any hour of the night, at any time during the day, to do an assessment. Assessments cost nothing. Okay, so we would never let anybody's ability to pay inhibit their access to care, and that's a guarantee. It's something I've really championed since coming on as CEO. But if you don't know, if you're in a bad space, if you just need to talk to somebody and see how you're doing, come visit us.
Well, that's the thing. Sometimes, I hear this all the time from people I talk to that like they're having a bad day, and just them talking about it's like, okay, that's all it was. I just needed to say some of these words out loud. Robert Marsh, no relation to John, by the way, new CEO of CenterPointe Hospital. Man, we appreciate what you guys, what CenterPointe, what you have done and what you continue to do. And welcome to Mid-Missouri, man.
Hey, thanks so much. It's great to meet y'all.
All right, Robert Marsh, CenterPointe Hospital. Nolan's next. See ya.
Bye.